Hello and welcome to another episode of Injury Time. As usual, we have Pradyum and Orko with us. This episode, we have decided to do a preview for the upcoming league, let's say leagues, because ISL and Indian Football League maybe. We'll start with the obvious question, Brad. Are you excited that we are finally, underway at the top level? I'm sure I can see behind that you are watching many other games. Indian football is not stopped. But are you excited that the league is finally on?
I think I don't know. I wouldn't say excited, but just glad it started. I think from just a sense of there's so much nonsense that's gone on this season. It's like let's get back to actually having 22 players on the field and watching a game of football. I wouldn't. The reason I'm not excited as such, I don't think it's going to be a great league. I mean, if and when it starts, where teams are going to be playing, it's going to be a real. It looks already like it's going to be a real mess, and so expectations are low. So uh, the bar's been set really low this time. I mean, you don't know where some teams are playing, and we're a week away. Some teams haven't started training, and we're what is it, Tuesday today? So we're 4 days away from the league starting, and some teams haven't started training. So Orca's already laughing. So I think that's the level of excitement we have for this league. Is like I think we're all more excited to let it start so then it can finish, and then once it's over, let's see what happens. I think that's more where we should say we are.
Yeah, Orko, you are not excited, is it?
Yeah, I'm very excited to see the chaos. I always said ISL would regress to the I League level, but the way Prad's describing it, where some people haven't started training, it looks like the ISL's regress to state league levels. This is what state league teams do. They just go into a season blindfolded. They don't know what's going to happen, and then 3 days before the tournament, everybody gathers together. I'm going to call it a tournament. I can't call it a league also. So I mean, yeah, I think this is perfect chaos, right? There are people fighting with each other on Twitter. There are people saying why are you letting these guys go? I mean, it's madness,
Are you
and in
letting
some
which guys
some
go?
clubs, yeah.
Are you
Sorry,
letting who go?
I mean, why are you letting players go, right? The only club that looks like it's seamlessly doing its own thing as usual is Mohan Bagan. I don't think it's let anybody go. Nobody's taken a pay cut. Nothing really happened. No players really gone out. Right? They're the only ones who we haven't seen a lot of turbulence from. Right? Otherwise, I mean, there's a lot of panic amongst fans. I don't know if the clubs themselves feel that way.
And I personally, I am excited because I enjoy going to the stadium and watching. Um, I was there for Santosh Trophy when it was here. I watched those ones also, but it's always nice to have a more packed stadium, right? Santosh Trophy was maybe 100 people. I'm my modus operandi every year is to bring friends to come and see either because we are in Bangalore, either the Kerala Blasters match or the Mohan Bagan or some one of those historic rivals, so that they can get excited about the mood and everything, and then continue to
Are they
follow.
still your friends?
Yeah, yeah. And to be fair, I have done so much for Indian football in recruiting young youth people to follow what is happening in the national teams and the leagues and stuff. And my friend in Germany still texts me saying what is happening in Kerala Blasters. Like, what is this? He's left, India some 3 or 4 years ago, but he still follows. So I feel like I've done a lot. Anyway, coming back to the league. So we are doing it because it's a truncated league. We'll also do a truncated preview. Earlier, Prad and I used to, go in depth with every single team. I don't know if we'll be able to do that because we don't know much about what is happening. But anyway, if I had to ask both of you, who are the favorites to win? I know Mohan Bagan by far, but who are the favorites to win? Both, the ISL as well as I League or the soon to be renamed Indian Football League, maybe.
All right, I'll say I think from what you said, the fact that Orca just mentioned that they haven't been disrupted so much in terms of they've kept most of their squad. I think they've got all their foreigners. You've got the two foreign centre backs. You've got Petratus Cummings. You've got the everyone's there. Even that Robson Robinho as well. So they've got full strength foreign lineup, and you've got full strength. All the Indian players except Ashish Rai is injured, so the obvious thing is to do some jugaad and get Amer Anawade across, which Labera has done, to get
He
one
has
more of
come, right?
his.
He's left Kerala Blasters.
Yeah, terminated his
Terminated
contract.
his contract, yeah.
We are backdated obviously, and then managed to go for one season, and then he's going to go back to his parent club, which is Kerala Blasters. So technically a loan, but how to do a loan outside of the loan window? The things that we're used to this in Indian football. So I think, Lobera is going to pad his CV with another title probably, and then claim, I've done this with 3 clubs now or whatever. But I don't think you can read too much into this season when all the matches aren't home and away, and it's not that. I think the bigger test would be, can they go unbeaten all season? That should be, that should be the sort of benchmark when you're watching their games. How good are they? So they're playing. It is in some of the games. Literally, it's going to be men against boys when they're playing the likes of Mohammedan Sporting and some of the other teams. The level disparity is huge. So I think their favorites. East Bengal, I think, would be, for the first time, would be considered in there. Should finish top 2. And then I think afterwards it's a bit of a race between the more stable teams like FC Goa and Bengaluru. And probably like a dark horse would be maybe Round Glass or someone like that. And the rest, you're just throwing darts to predict where they can be, because you don't know. You haven't seen enough of them. Judging by Super Cup, Chennai should be one of the bottom 3. But they've added a load of players now. They've added foreigners, which, you see Manolo's interview today in Times of India, spot on, where he says, how can clubs be asking Indian players to take a pay cut, and everyone at the club to take a pay cut, and then you go out and go sign foreign players? So I think that's a bit disgraceful from some of those clubs, but maybe the panic button's kicked in because of the R word, relegation.
Well, that's not confirmed, right? They're just still arguing about it.
In Indian football, nothing's confirmed. Even when back in the I-League days, when there was promotion and relegation, certain clubs, if they were in that position, the rules were bent or changed, and a lot of times teams were not relegated. They were brought back in, and some were forcibly relegated who didn't even finish bottom 2. So you never know. And so
Marco, is the same as Brad? Your picks for the
I think Brad just hit the nail on there. The only team that for me I can't predict, and I feel like they might have a good season, I think Northeast United, because I think they're having the coach for the 3rd straight season. They've lost their talisman. They've lost Ajare, but they still have a Zabako, for example. They have the players that they've had for a one season, right? We should see the likes of East Bengal do better than they have in the previous seasons. There are reports of some teams drawing against RFDL teams under 21. I saw that report, and preseason matches, right? Preseason training, it's too early, right? Mohammedan saying they're going to play an all-Indian squad. But I feel like majorly we're going to witness a season of struggle on the pitch. I feel like cohesion is going to be a major issue. And I know this from personal experience. You need 6 weeks. That's the bare minimum. It's a magic window. 6 weeks. Better if you can get 2 months, right? So Bagan's been there. Bagan's played. They have all the foreigners also, and they have all the Indians also, right? And they already had all the Indians, and now they got the Indians from other clubs also. So at the start of season, they had signed Tekcham Abhishek Singh. They have Amer Anawade. So hard to look past them. Yeah.
When we look at I-League, before we have a team that is somewhat in the middle. Churchill, there's news that they're trying to get into the ISL. Let's talk about them, and as well as your picks in the I-League.
Someone was asking me this yesterday about from what I know, they're not ready yet. I don't think they have the coach. They don't have the players. They haven't started training. Apart from obviously the Goa Pro League squad, which is not doing particularly well in the Pro League. So even if you were to just put them into the ISL now, it would obviously disrupt all the fixtures. They wouldn't be ready. I mean, they'd be even further behind than, let's say, Odisha, who haven't started training. So it would be a fast for them to come in this year. By the same token, I don't think they're ready for the I League either. So I don't know what exactly their plans are. So maybe they're going to be in a league of their own.
So who's the picks in the I League for you? Like, I'm quite excited to see Chanmari play at that level. I don't think they'll do all that well, but quite excited to see them play in that level.
I mean, the I League's at the best of times, the I League is unpredictable. Except possibly last year with Intercasti, the way they'd gone out and spent. But even they were run close by a lot of teams. You'd have to look at the ones who've actually gone out and got foreign players and done well. I think Gokulam, they changed coaches. They'll probably change players once again just before the start of the league. They'll always be there or thereabouts. They have a strong core of their team. I think this season, Rajasthan might be one of the surprise packages because look to them, their signings were pretty astute, the ones they made in the Durand Cup. If they can keep some of those players and the way they were playing, I think they could be one of those that causes a lot of problems. I think Dempo might be another surprise. It looks like they've got Marcus Joseph back. They've cherry-picked some of the foreign players from Churchill Brothers. And again, stability of same players over 3-4 seasons who've played third division, second division, I League, and the same coach. I think that stability will help. And the reason I'm saying that is the northeast sides, I think, because they're hit by budgets, I don't think Lajong, Aizawl, Chanmari are going to go with foreign players. So they'll still be very tough to beat. They will cause a lot of upsets, and especially at home, they're going to be tough to beat. But I don't think they're going to be championship contenders. And then, the other, Srinidhi should be there. If ever there was a season Srinidhi should be winning the league, this should be it. But they always manage to find a way to sort of shoot themselves in the foot. So I don't think that's going to change.
What about you, Argo?
Well, I think the I League, I have to, again, like I said, agree with Prad because I think Srinidhi have been bridesmaids for 2 seasons now, 2-3 seasons now. They've been there.
Yeah.
I think Gokulam, it's a good season for Gokulam to smell blood. I think Gokulam have been active in the transfer window. I've been looking at their socials. So they've been pretty active. They've signed a few Indian players. They've signed a few locals, right? So you're looking at a situation where it might be a 2-3 horse race. Rajasthan United, yeah. I mean, Rajasthan United for me hasn't always been the most consistent club, hasn't always been there, hasn't always gone out and performed the way they could. Because, I mean, as opposed to a lot of I League clubs, and I League clubs obviously you can distribute into two parts, right? There are some who are running on bare minimum budgets, they're just happy to be there, right? And there are some who are who have higher than usual budgets, and you expect them to do well. So yeah, I mean, it might be a good season for let's say Srinidhi or Gokulam, I feel, to do well. But I mean, that's the beauty of the I League. I think it's always been less predictable than the ISL. I think that's the best part of it. Yeah.
I have this question, like Brad, and because you worked in Shillong and then you were in Bangalore and in so many other places. Travel is one of the hardest part of the whole league. And this year, because of the way it is, especially in the ISL, a lot of teams are not playing at home. A lot of teams are having more home games than away games. All these kind of stuff. How does that help or hinder? How do you know if anybody is it's if I have 11 home games and the other team has only 7, there is a difference.
So, I mean, in a normal season, you could probably compare it and say, and then coaches could use that as an excuse saying, oh, we played away a lot, blah, blah, blah. But I think with this season, with 13 games, I think, and squads being sort of up there, down there with this, it's just going to be impossible to sort of gauge why teams are performing. You can hit the 100 reasons. I mean, if you're a coach, you've got 100 get out clauses. I mean, you turn around and say, well, we didn't have a long enough preseason. I don't have the players, the core of the team, how it was originally built. Like, take, for example, FC Goa. The team was built to play a certain way with certain players in key positions. And then you played the Super Cup, you played the AFC competition with those players in that position. And all of a sudden, literally the spine has been taken out of that team. You center midfield, your strikers. And it's not easy to replace that. So you have to then adapt and almost like play a different way or get players to play in different positions. So the old, putting square pegs in round holes now. So I think excuses wise, the away matches, yeah, of course it's going to be, it actually might help certain teams. I'll give an example. Jamshedpur is probably the toughest travel for teams as an away match. So you always wanted to there were players who pick up yellow cards and avoid that, trip to Jamshedpur. Now, by the same token, every team only has to do the Jamshedpur trip once. So yeah, you suck it up and deal with it. With Jamshedpur, every away match for them, obviously they're still doing the same travel. So their best season, Jamshedpur ever, was, surprise, surprise, when it was in a bio bubble. All of the matches in Goa, right? So, I might actually do them, teams like that, a favor if they don't have to travel too much. But I think the bigger issue is going to be teams like Interkashi don't have a home venue. We're supposed to play initially in Kolkata, then it was okay, we'll play in Odisha, and I think that's not going to happen now. They might be playing out of Goa. So if they're playing out of Goa, do they then base themselves in Goa, or do they just fly in for the games? All sorts. If they base themselves, let's say in Kolkata, fly in for the games, a couple of losses, guess what? Abbas is going to say, right, we need to be in Goa, and they'll relocate, and it'll be one of the hotels that he was with Mohan Bagan Super Giants, and then they'll play them. And if the results then improve, we'd see that's why. But it could just be the fixtures that they have later on the season versus the ones they have early on. So it's like I said, it's an easy excuse. It's a get out clause for everyone. But you'll never be able to compare because there's so many moving parts, so many variables that are beyond club's control.
So amidst all this darkness, right? I'm looking for a silver lining, and the silver lining is this year a lot of Indians are going to get a chance to play. Some strikers are going to play at number 9 positions, which is always a question we wanted. We'll get some answers if they are good or indifferent, or as why there is this disparity. A lot of Indian coaches are also going to get a chance to give a run. Of course, there is a problem as we discussed before, it's preseason, so on and so forth. But I guess a lot of them are in the same boat. They haven't had the perfect time to prepare and all that. So do you think this is like a blessing in disguise or a trial run? If you do well this year, maybe next time we can look to have more Indian coaches and maybe more Indian players in some sense. I don't think that happens, but Indian coaches.
I think Arkal agreed with me. It's a blessing and a curse in a way for Indian football about more Indian coaches. We'll start with the coaches part, because are the coaches at, let's say, 6 or 7 of the clubs where they have Indian coaches now, are they there on merit, or are they there as a sort of cost-saving measure? If they're there as a cost-saving measure, then it's not great news for them, because then if budgets change in next season, let's say there's an investor, and will the clubs then revert to getting a foreign coach and not having an Indian coach? Or does that then, if let's say it continues with Indian coaches now, is that the new benchmark then for the salaries of what they're going to get? Because they're like, well, you can get them in at this price. So, in the past, there have been ISL coaches, say Vincenzo Agnese, or you've other foreign coaches who've come here and had a disaster in the ISL, right? And were replaced. Robbie Fowler was one, had a disaster. Renedy replaced him, and as a stopgap. But then Renedy couldn't continue because of the rules, and then they brought in another. Again, the guy was the analyst or something at East Bengal, and he was obviously terribly worse. Now, but shouldn't Renedy get that sort of Alejandro Menendez salary? No, they won't. They'll be like, you come for this, because now that the AFF or coach education is giving out pro licenses based on, if you're willing to pay this much, you get a pro license, as opposed to a meritocracy with the licenses. you're going to have more supply now of pro licensed Indian coaches. So if you turn around and hold on to a price saying, oh, I think I deserve this much, I finished, let's say, third in the ISL last year, there's going to be 10 other guys who'll be willing to do it for less. And again, it comes to the same thing. There's a lot of foreign coaches who come here and work for less than what a lot of Indian coaches would feel that they should get. If you're spending 10 to 12 lakhs to get your pro license, you're hoping that, okay, now I'll get a job in the ISL and I can recoup some of that. But if you're going to be undercut by somebody who's going to come in for much less, and just because he has the UEFA Pro and this, that, and the other, it's a shame. In terms of quality of the Indian coaches, I think, again, it's going to be tough to judge because you finish top 3 this season. Is it because of your squad or is it because of other things? It's not a like for like comparison. Have there been any coaches over the last few years that have blown anybody away saying, oh, this is an up and coming coach who's doing really well? Not, I don't know. Okay, there's not many that when we discuss that you think, oh, this is a coach that, he's really up there, should be given this kind of opportunity. I've done this in the leagues. And I think the true test, I always say this is, you can't judge it based on titles, because I said this year, the team that has spent the most, the richest team will most likely win the title. It doesn't make him a better coach than somebody who has the lowest budget, worst team, but managed to get them to mid-table. Now, over the years, if you look at some of the best coaches that have come to Indian football, you look at people like Des Buckingham. He improved the Indian players at Mumbai. You look at Elko when he was there, North, improved the Indian players, right? And also got results, obviously, did very well. I think Oscar Bruzon, when he was his first into Sporting Club to go up, got them punching above their weight, improved the Indian players. I think that's how I'd like to judge the coaches. Can you make the players better? And I think Renedis, for example, has done that at Classic Academy. The players that were coming out of there were pretty decent. They did well in the RFDL. Now, the big question is just like, can players make that jump from the academy to pro football and senior football? Can a coach make that jump from, all right, you're decent at RFDL level or at developing players? Can you now do that, continue to do that, as well as manage egos and other things that you have with first team players and foreign players, and big time Indian players? So I think that's going to be the challenge for him and some of the other Indian coaches. So that's where I think we should judge them rather than just on league position.
Marco, anything to add?
No, I think it's pretty comprehensive. And yeah, I mean, I would like to call it a positive that Indian coaches are getting their chances. I mean, it's debatable. You'll always have a debate. Somebody will say, no, he's up to the mark, and somebody will say he's not. But the results speak for themselves, right? And the style of play, right? And like Pat said, I mean, when you watched Des, I think Des might be the best coach we've ever seen in the league, right? Because the cohesion in the team, the fluidity was something else. It's not something you've seen very often from an Indian club, right? So yeah, I mean, it's you've seen Bagan fire title winning coaches. You've seen simply because the next best coach was available. They said, oh, we don't like the way we are playing right now. Last year, they won the league, but people complained saying Mohan draw Bagan. Somebody said they pulled a lot of draws, right? So, and coincidentally, I've been reading Living on the Volcano. It's a book about managers, right? So it's such an unpredictable gig, right? One day you're sitting. I was reading the case of AD Boothroyd. You're one day you're sitting there. You're one of the hottest managers in the league. You're 35 years old. 5 years later, you're at the bottom of the National League. You're about to get relegated, and your life turned 360. So, life from a manager like Arsenal, and the title comes from Arsene Wenger quote where he says, "Being a manager is like living on the edge of a volcano, right? You don't know." And at the basis levels, from my experience, you're also a therapist, you're also a logistics person, you're also an operations guy, you're everything. So the coaching conundrum obviously in India continues. There's a big question mark. Obviously now we have a lot of quantity. There's a third pro license, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, third pro license coach that's the thing. I mean, we've discussed a lot of the candidates. We know a lot of the candidates also, and that's probably going to be the case with a few of the earliest pro license courses that are going on. But then, which of these guys is really going to break out, right? Which of these guys really going to try and take a job outside the country, right? Even if it's at a third division club or a fourth division club, which of these guys is actually doing it because he or she wants to do something for themselves, right? As opposed to just use it as a put it on posters and say, oh, pro license coach here, pay 8,000 rupees per month for your kid, right? So what are these coaches going to do in the future? I think that is a big question, and I think F should also hold a review once they have all this pro license coaches for 3-4 years. What's happened with them? I think the review mechanism is very important. I think people have spoken about it for years, but it's not happened. Yeah.
So how is all this going to have an impact on the players?
So I like what Parker said about the review of it right now. These coaches, some of them haven't worked. You're getting a pro license, you haven't worked at a professional level, as in you've not coached clubs. You've not. It's not like these guys have coached a third division team, second division, an I League team, then come on the pro license course. They've just sort of got there because they have an A license, and they haven't worked with this level of players. So you got to feel for the players as well. Now you've got a coach in there at a club who is there, and players aren't stupid. They know this, right? They know that this guy was just brought in because whatever, last minute, or it's club finances, and so they're used to a certain level of coaching now, the players. I mean, especially the guys who've been in the ISL, it's been more than 10 years now. They've had a level of coaching, a level of professionalism around it. Not granted, not all the ISL clubs it was like that, right? Some of them were. So if you're going to go back to the days of just show up at the training ground, put your kit down, train, leave, like the old I League days, and not that level of professionalism which has, crept in or seeped into the system over the last few years, then players, it's going to be curious to see what the players do and how they start reacting to it. And again, it's a question of, will the players get any better, or will you start to see the same problems we've always had with whenever in the past, when there's been Indian coaches in charge of a under-17 team or a national team or certain club team, you start to get this regionalism where, right, there's a Manipuri coach who's in charge of a team, and all of a sudden, 60% of the squad is from that region. And then if that coach isn't there the next season because of results, and a new coach comes in from Punjab, then you just wipe out all those players, and then French players come in, and then style of play changes, etc. Players having to adapt to it. That's where I think the concern would be for players, because you mentioned some of these coaches out there were there. I don't know, I'd struggle to, but I couldn't really say this person has a particular style of play or how to predict what lineup they're probably going to go with, because they don't really have that mileage under their belt as coaches. So, what do you think, Arka?
Yeah, I think about the coaches, right? I did look up somewhere assistants at ISL clubs, but they had gone there. They hadn't worked at a lower level. They just directly drop shipped to go the ISL level. It's not in keeping in line with the practices globally, right? Where they're managing at the lower levels. They work their way up the pyramid. No, they have just and you have to ask how this recruitment is happening, because there have been tons of Indian coaches who've got their teams into the I League, who got their teams promoted from the I League 2 to the I League, right? So why not one of those guys, right? So I mean, it's a bit baffling, obviously, but I mean, with vis-a-vis the players, the Indian players, like I said, that is a culture of recycling. We've touched upon this, right? We've spoken about how Indian players tend to, what do you say, float from club to club to club. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like it's 80% up to a player also to improve themselves as to what they do, what they don't, right? They have had such a long off season right now barring a couple, I don't think anybody's really stepped out of their comfort zone to go and train, say with a club outside. But with the connections they have and the money they have, they could very easily have done it. They would very easily have kept themselves in shape, right? So yeah, I mean, I think coaches and the players, we have to look at hard look at how we're looking at uh barometers of improvement, right? How we're looking at it, because right now we're looking at a bit of a stagnancy. We're looking at numerical increase. We're not looking at, let's say, a qualitative increase. Yeah.
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 I think the perfect example of this would be now this season. You heard reports of some clubs want that rule removed where it's mandatory to have a goalkeeping coach. So it's clearly cost-cutting measures that have been implemented by clubs with the way they've gone about their coaching. You know, if now you're going to have ISL and some I-League teams, it was always the case. Not all of them had a goalkeeping coach, but if you've got clubs now where the goalkeepers are going and then the coach is saying, right, you four or you three go off there in the corner, warm up, and then come back, and then we'll need you in 20 minutes. It's going back to the old I-League days and state league level kind of coaching where, the goalkeepers are just separate entity, do their own little thing. The senior most goalkeeper will effectively be taking training for those others. And then you join with the rest of them. I think that's not really good from a goalkeeper's point of view. I think strength and conditioning is another thing that might get culled, because you'll have people saying, oh, do we really need that? Can't the coach lead the fitness? And if you've got some coaches now who, it's not their forte doing strength and conditioning and developing conditioning players, you might get really either go back to old school methods, or it might be, let's just go on YouTube, find some fancy looking drill that looks good on Instagram, and do that. And I won't be surprised the league starts on the 14th. By the 14th of March, clubs have serious injury crisis where players are dropping like flies. The usual 60+ minute cramping and players going down holding their hamstrings and the game's being slowed down, all that stuff. So as Aka said, we're going back to the I-League or worse days. We're probably going back to like state league level days with what's going to happen behind the scenes with the coaching, I think, in some clubs, not all, but in some.
So this is also probably or hopefully just for this 1 year, right? Because next year I'm hoping there is some parity, in the sense that I'm not saying they'll spend huge money again. They probably should not. But the people at the top tend to think like the people at the top, right? So there is a chance that might come in a new guise, let's say. But hopefully by next year they'll go back to investing into the training bits and all. I mean, this is slightly off topic. I was talking to a senior journalist the other day, and he was mentioning about the situation in Indian football. One thing he said was, when the ISL was not happening, there was that moment all the teams or several of the teams decided to shut shop, at least the first team operations, and future is in limbo and all that kind of stuff. And he asked, all of these clubs have promised for so long to invest in youth and development and so on and so forth, which they have. A lot of them have put a lot of money into it. But why is that? His question was, they are tied to a league not happening or no. Like Mohan Bagan, if tomorrow ISL does not happen, I-League does not happen, that club stays. Because it's not a franchise. It's got something to do, it's a club in itself that has certain values and ethics and stuff attached to them, which I thought was a very interesting note. He said, which I had not really thought about. Well, not the franchisee system has its pros and cons, but one of the cons is that if the league is not there, they can quickly shut shop, and there is not necessarily a continuation plan in that way. It's something very intriguing for me when he said he knew they could be taken from one place and dropped as another. That we have seen happen multiple times in the ISL already. We've seen that happen all over US in NBA and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I thought this was an interesting take from him.
Marco, you want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say on it. I mean, Sanjeev spoke about the NBA and all this, but I think with those leagues, it's a once in a 20-year occurrence, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there have been reports of, let's say, franchise in the US holding city councils at gunpoint, not a literal gunpoint, but
Yeah, they
essentially,
want the council to pay for the new stadium and
yeah, essentially coercing them to pay up, right? And basically creating a mass movement. But in that case, you had a mass movement, you had people really bawling their eyes out saying, don't shift this franchise, right? Or don't take this franchise out of our city. Interestingly, I've heard the paradox also, right? I spoke to a senior journalist, and all of us know him clearly. Won't name, but very obvious. um, he said when Dempo and Salgaonkar shut down their teams, right? He said not a single soul was there on the street to cry. No, nobody shed a tear, right? And those are so-called clubs. Dempo's been around since 1960s, right? Some of these Goan clubs have been around since the 50s and 60s. 50 years they've finished, right? Still, nobody really shed a tear. It was just gone, and people just forgot, right? Now they're just the 2-3 hardcore fans who exist from that era, and even they've lost interest in Indian football, right? Because for them it was about their club, right? So today you look at the level of the franchises slash clubs, right? You look at the level of the teams in the ISL, right? Even you look at a Mohun Bagan or East Bengal, what have they done to, let's say, entice fandom under the age of 20, under the age of 30, right? Nothing. It's just that people who've been following, they've been following. There is just a cultural knock-on effect, right? People are just following for ages. I think Blasters, that way you have to give credit. They do a lot of good work in community outreach and all that. I think, I've also looked at the fandom for the Super League Kerala clubs. I know we spoke about the fifth tier being inflated and all that, but I think they have some sort of, they're trying to catch lightning there.
yeah, they're doing a
But
good job.
yeah, they're doing a good job. And yes, for a few, there are a few Lajong faithfuls, there are a few Aizawl faithfuls. Yes, that's it. But overall, this whole high-handedness or high snobbery about this being a franchise, this being a club, nobody's really worked on fan engagement. Nobody's really, said, oh, if you're going to shift today, people are going to be unhappy. Like I said, there are only 1 or 2 clubs in the entire country, and we have a pyramid, I League 1, 2, 3 and ISL, where you have 50, 60 odd clubs, right? So you can't really say that about a lot of clubs, right? So good point about the franchises, yes, but at the end of the day, a lot of clubs have also come and shut down, right? To call them clubs, call them franchises, they are just old wine in a new bottle.
No, that part is it's fair because I was also looking at what you just said, right? Because like you said, the Goan club shutting down or any other team shutting down, the uproar is fairly minimal. Uh, the only place there will be an uproar is probably in Calcutta because of the history and the connection that they have with the club, with the local culture. But if you don't do fan engagement, that's the one thing everybody thinks is, so we'll always be this because we have always been as such. The problem is that if you don't nurture the next generation, that's never going to happen. For a case in point, this baseball in America, it used to be called America's pastime. Now the average age of their fan is 50, which is not good for the younger generation. That sport is slowly falling apart when NBA is rising or
50
NFL
is
is
the
rising.
average Maidan fan also. It's the
That's what I
average
was coming to. I
Maidan.
think the Calcutta fans are also on when I travel around, I felt it was on the older side. The younger generation are there, of course, they are there, but it's not as huge as it was. Of course, the technology is there, people traveling for work and all the kind of stuff changes, migration, all that has a effect.
No, but I
But
asked
it's
some
good.
kids in my apartment complex. I asked them, do you know East Bengal? Do you know Mogan? They were blank. They
Yeah, a
were
lot.
blank.
See, kids nowadays, I mean, I've met kids in metros who can name the Al Nassr squad, right? They know Al Hilal playing against somebody, and yeah. So there is a generational shift, and I think over the years, even when I was coaching in the I League, I mean, when the so-called big clubs were, East Bengal, Monga, and or the Bengal, the Goan clubs which were winning the titles, but none of them were what you'd call clubs because Mohun Bagan and East Bengal still play out of and train out of leased facilities, which are not their own. Considering they've been around for 100 years, you would think that with that fan base, with the wealth, you have your own training ground. You have your own club where it's actually like, like you go into Europe, even if it's a smaller thing in Croatia and all that, that is the club, that's the office, that's where they train, that's where they play, and they have their home matches, etc. Over the years, even when they were in the I League and now in the ISL, their academies are not something that are known for producing players. They've always been just like, now we'll go out and buy the players, right? They've never really been strong in developing players. Probably United Sports Club, other clubs, Aryans and others have probably developed more players in Kolkata than they have, or responsible for developing. The same could be said of your Goan clubs. It's only after they pulled out of the I League that they started investing their money in youth development. So it's no different than what your senior journalists were saying about, oh, the franchise clubs are not investing. They were never investing in youth. They were spending, right? They had to have youth teams. It's part of your club licensing criteria. So you have a youth team. It's not like any of them went out and invested in residential academies. I'm not a fan of residential academies, but it's not like they all went, because the model that was sold or told to them was, look, this is how RF Young Champs is. This is how Young Champs were created as a sort of showcase by the league to say, this is how a model academy should be. And if you guys, all the other franchises, follow this, then we'll improve Indian football. So the rest of the clubs just looked at it and said, oh, okay, good, you guys are doing it. Keep doing it. None of them copied that and created it. Right? So you've got, to an extent, the AFC tried a little bit with their thing, and then the closest you could probably say is Round Glass now, and which partly they've inherited players from Minerva, and the facilities are there. So they're the only club that's actually invested in the facilities that an academy requires in terms of multiple grounds, coaches, etc., etc., etc. The rest, So none of these clubs have ever done it. In the history of Indian football, clubs don't do it. They, for some reason or the other, they would rather spend money on some, 40 lakhs to a crore on a random Nigerian, which later became a random Spaniard, to a random somebody else, whatever the flavor of the month was, rather than put that money into something that has proven over the years that you'll at least have homegrown talent. But that's not. That just. It's never been one of the big things. The Kerala Blasters, for all of their fan power and all this, that, and the other, they don't have a robust youth development system in comparison to the size of the club that they are, size of the fan base that they are, and the size of the club that they have, and the sponsors that they can attract. They're nowhere near where they should be in that regard.
So can I play devil's advocate here a little bit, just to add some masala, right? So the Calcutta clubs generally, the big big three, never been, at least for the last say 50, 60 years, not a great developer, right? Even their best teams, the Panjabandas are all from South India. We lost so many players. They're great importers of talent. At the time when Calcutta was producing talent as well, a lot of the people used to go from south to say Rajasthan club or Ireland or something, and then perform and then move to or do well in Dempo or somewhere and then go, right. So is it the job of a top tier team to create player? Could they just not say that, look, we are spending money on the top level, you guys be the ones who actually seed and germinate the players, and we'll take them, we'll pay you do the development part. Is that not a, again, like a viable option for a top club to do? Like, we'll maybe tie up and that kind of stuff.
I can buy that argument, because as long as the ecosystem is good enough for that, right? But I mean, I was watching earlier the RFPL game. There was a last few days ago, RFPL game was Mohun Bagan versus East Bengal, right? There were decent crowds over there, right? So fans are passionate about those two clubs and will come to watch. The RFPL match between Bagan and East Bengal probably have more fans than some I League games, right? So there is an interest, and I think if you cultivate that interest, maybe you could arrest that decline that's there in Bengal football. I mean, you're not seeing as many players coming through. I mean, in your book, you talked about whether it's because they're making more money or something like that. But for example, if you had good facilities and a kid could get a good education and train in football throughout the year and have a chance to play one day for East Bengal or Mohun Bagan, there's a lot of kids from those backgrounds where you mentioned in your book, and Orkanos in in West Bengal and from even like the northern parts of Bengal and other parts. It's not just about Kolkata, but the other districts in Bengal. If you could attract those kids and get them with the resources that they have, you could improve the whole ecosystem. Yeah, we all know you have an academy, only 2 players are going to make it to your senior team. 98% won't. But even that 2% from your community building, then would you then lower your age of fans? Would it drop down from below 50 that your fan base is? So you're future-proofing yourself in it. So a lot of times youth development isn't just about, oh, we have an academy and we produce players. There's a lot more to do with your community engagement and developing your coaches. We talked about earlier about coaches. If your coach has been there through your system, he knows how to play, he knows what these youngsters, how to do. He moves his way into the pro team. Like, look at a lot of the managers in the Premier League and stuff like that. They've been around. Even Pep Guardiola started working with the dev team, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the Dutch coaches, they go through that sort of route about doing it. So it's about holistic development of the whole ecosystem: coaches, the players, the fans, sponsors, and everything, and facilities as well. So these clubs could shut down now, and there's no facilities that would be lost because none of them actually have, over 14 years of being of the ISL. No one has any facilities. They walk away, you wouldn't know that there's no footprint in those cities. You wouldn't know that that club existed. So that's the sad part. That's the sad reality of this.
Yeah. I think we digressed a little bit. Now, coming back to the final question here with the new season, we're looking at both I League and ISL. Who are the players that we should be looking out for? Because Brad, over the years, you've picked some absolutely unknown guys who've gone on to do really well. So I'm going to put the onus on you.
Well, now you're really putting me on the spot. I haven't seen a lot of games. Obviously, there hasn't been much games since the Durand Cup and then Super Cup and other things to really sort of say that. But FC Goa, I went to watch training a couple of times. I watched them play a practice match recently against some of the pro league teams. I think one player whose name we haven't heard over a while, but was supposed to break through a few seasons ago, was Nemil. He looks sharp. He looks much fitter than before. And I think with all the noise around this Daniel Lalimpuya signing and Ishan Pandit, etc., I think sneaking behind the thing without anyone talking about, I think Nemil might be one to watch this season. I think in terms of goal creation and having an impact in the games. I think for FC Goa, he'll be the one. And then the other club that I probably have a little bit more insight on, I think BFC. They've got a couple of youngsters they're going to play with an all-Indian back four, back five with the goalkeeper. I think with the way Renadi's playing, I think some of their youngsters might be the ones that sort of come to the fore. The ones they picked up from the India under-19 teams. And then I think in Kerala Blasters, I like that kid Koru. I think he looks a real talent. I think he's with the under-17s at the moment in Turkey, but he genuinely, obviously, he's old enough, let's say, to play at this senior level and make an impact. And yeah, I mean, Bagan, it's all well-known names. I think East Bengal and all that. So those are the sort of young talents that probably keep an eye on. I think the big question is which Indian striker is going to manage to seize this opportunity. And I think you'd like to see Rahim Ali's and a couple of others give a real good go of themselves this season, so that come March, Khalid Jamil has some options apart from a long throw in to try and score a goal. So.
Anyone that you want to pick up, Orko?
I think agree with Prad, obviously. Nemil, I mean, from what I've heard and what I've seen, he's put on a little bit of muscle also. Before he was a bit, he could be shaken off easily. I think Round Glass, I think, are always going to surprise us with a couple of, because they have that pipeline. And Prad rightly said, a lot of respect for what they're doing right now. I think want to see if the likes of Shami, if the likes of Man Lingthang, these guys can pick up sometime. We know they're capable of picking up sometime. Just have to see. Sporting Club de Delhi, I think, have gone about their job very quietly and very efficiently. I think they've done a decent job. Ayman and Azhar, I think good players to get.
I don't know how they were allowed to leave.
I mean, that I think that's a entirely different can of worms. But yeah, I think Alan Saji coming back from an ACL, important to see, because I've been a good friend of Alex's for years, and spoke to Alex, and Alex's whole reason for playing was his younger brother. Like, he would always speak about this supremely talented younger brother that he had, that was on the verge of breaking out, right? And obviously heard a lot of stuff about Alan Saji, but ACL obviously derailed him. So looking forward to see if he can make his mark. And also, when we saw in the Super Cup, when they actually replaced some of the older players with the younger ones, when the likes of Clarence came onto a pitch, they looked much better. Sporting Club Delhi. So there are green shoots. There are some indicators that this will be an indicator that this will be a good season for their under 23s. They also have a lot of under 23s. They have Sanatomba. So I think it's important to see how they do. So, and obviously I'm going to watch Sporting Club de Delhi in the flesh. They have a Delhi-based club after 8 years. So I mean, in the bleakest of seasons, there's a tiny silver lining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. I tend, obviously the mind always wanders to the attacking players and you focus on that. But I think some of the defensive players are going to get an opportunity this year with less foreign players around. And I think Ramjeet at Roundglass, he probably will, you're looking for Indian centre backs, he'll probably get a lot of minutes. I think Clarence, you mentioned, is another one that the left side centre back could get, hopefully gets a lot more minutes. And then you've got genuine options now for national team coach to look beyond the sort of, Njingan and Anwar combination, to, at least for the future. You're out there, Kisnal and not, they're on the wrong side of 30, some of these players. So you got to start looking for the next batch, especially as this qualification is over and the next one's a good couple of years down the line. So it's a good chance for Indian centre backs as well. For the first time in many years, you might see a lot more Indian centre backs coming to the fore. So that should be interesting.
Yeah. So on that, I think that was all we have today for everybody. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. We will continue bringing such interesting conversation in the future as well. Orko, you want to say something?
Yeah, before we go, I think I was just looking at Mohammedan squad. I think the good bet to take would be how many points do Mohammedan get, right? My hot prediction is that it's below 10. It's below 10 points, right? And I want to say below 5, but feel like that might be a bit too dramatic on my part.
All right,
10 points. It's not very
well, okay, let's make it interesting. Because Orca hasn't paid a fine for being late today. But let you Sandeep, your top 3, bottom 3 ISL.
Sorry?
Bottom
top 3 and bottom 3. And then let's see, we'll review this in midway through the season after 6 games and see where we stand.
Top 3 will be Mohan Bagan first. Then East Bengal maybe. I really want to go with FC Goa because I feel they've played. The others are not, and they've played. Although, like you said, the spine is out. And I'm not convinced that Ishan Pandita can get you that goals. Daniel, I've always liked, but he's never scored that kind of numbers. So, okay, I'll go with Goa.
What about you, Orca?
I think top 3, Bagan, maybe in East Bengal, Northeast United.
Okay. All right, I'll break the trend because both of you picked top 3 with Spanish coaches. So I'll go Bagan, East Bengal, and I'll probably say BFC. Give Renedy some love. I think they've got a pretty balanced squad. And I think the departure shouldn't really impact them that badly. All right, Sandeep, bottom 3.
Mohammedan. I don't know. I can't say the others. I just can't figure out.
I think there's one that's sticking out there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just feel like I speak to Renedy on and off quite a bit. We meet and stuff. So I know they're working really hard, but I don't know what the others are doing, right?
No.
It's fine
Yeah.
that you buy players and then you keep them.
Yeah, no, just guess. Just guess.
Uh, I don't want to say Interkashi because it just feels wrong.
Hmm.
Uh, can't think of any ISL
No,
teams.
there are a couple of
Orca,
sticky notes.
Orca, go with it then. Go with your bottom three.
Yeah. Mohammedan, Odisha,
Hey,
Chennai.
Odisha does not count because I don't even know if they'll play. Their team has not even started training. That doesn't.
Hey, the fixtures are out.
Fixtures
So
are out, yeah. Odisha, Chennai, yeah, for me. That.
Yeah, in that case, Odisha for sure. Chennai have foreign players
Yes.
in a season without foreign.
Inigo, Daniel Chima Chukwu, guys, is back.
Yeah,
see,
Alberto Noguera.
yeah. But I feel
but
like towards if they get after a while, once the players half the season's over, once their players are sort of fit, they might be able to climb up. Although they have all the problems with stadiums
Yeah.
and so on and so forth.
I mean, I have little small hope on Clifford because obviously worked with him at Goa. Yeah, I don't think so, but I mean, I feel like the mixture of circumstances might just drag him. I feel like they might be bottom table, may not be
Hmm.
bottom three, but yeah.
What's
What?
yours, Brad?
I think, yeah, can't see far past what Orca was saying. I think if you'd asked me, I would have said Mohammedan, Odisha, and Chennai a few months ago, but probably take Chennai out of it now because of the players that they've added. So I think they just will have that little bit of quality enough to just not lose games, draw a game, nick a game here or there. And in 13 games, that could be enough. So then that gives you the conundrum, who's that third team going to be? And much as I don't want it to say it, I think Sporting Club Delhi. I saw them in the Super Cup. They didn't look very good. They haven't really improved. Young players, you want to see them do well, but they'll be hovering around that relegation. So it could be between them. Don't know how will Northeast get goals without Ajare. Will a lot of teams could be in similar situations. I think Ryan Glass will do well. But I think so. It could be a SC Delhi, Sporting Delhi, sorry, Chennai,
Yeah.
and others who are just, and even don't know what Mumbai is going to be like.
Mumbai, I was going to say Mumbai.
Part of me would say I would throw them in as well because
I was going to say Mumbai because it's just a black hole. You don't know what's
you
what's
don't
going to
know what
happen.
it is. So it's
But then how do you?
and
This is the
They have
challenge
good
of
Indian players,
predicting,
but
right?
they're
We don't know
aging
what these
Indian
guys are
players,
like.
right? Sorry?
There's a problem
there's
with the
always one dark horse, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So who's a
Yeah.
dark horse then?
The dark horse for relegation for me is Mumbai.
Mumbai, yeah.
Because you wouldn't pick them. Yeah, you wouldn't pick them. But I don't think, as Arka was saying, aging squad. Just I can't see if the results don't go well in the first few games, I can just see the coach just saying, "Listen, I'm jumping off this sinking ship." And yeah, and
You'll
then
be
what?
saying dark horse in the other direction.
Other direction, yeah. Dark horse
Yeah.
for winning it. I think, like I said, we can't see anyone actually challenging
Round glass.
the big two.
I would say round
Round
glass.
Roundhouse the only one. Yeah, Roundhouse is the dark horse for top three finish.
Yeah. I think Mumbai, the only silver lining is if Chikara gets some time, because you look at Pereira Diaz, he's old, right? You look at Changte, he's coming towards the end of, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, he's coming towards the bottom part of his career.
But
I
he's
mean,
still what,
you have Brandon
29,
Fernandez.
28, 29,
Sorry?
30? Chante?
Sorry? Changte is 28, 29,
Yeah.
um,
But
quote
I think it
unquote
was the
28,
guess,
29,
right?
quote
Who
unquote,
took him
quote
to the
unquote
next level.
28, 29, quote unquote 28, 29, right?
Yeah, that's okay. But
It's-
everyone in India, we say quote unquote.
Yeah, sure. But
Given.
then, no, look at the squad. You have Brandon Fernandez, who's an injury prone Brandon Fernandez, who's 32, right?
What, he's only 32?
Yeah. Well, that 31, 32, there is a lot of indicators that Mumbai are actually going to struggle. There are a lot of indicators, I feel. Yeah. They have Nuno Reis. They got him, but I feel like he's maybe 2-3 years too late for the league, right? Because Nuno Reis has been a name that's been bandied around the league for years, right? He was in Mohun Bagan and then obviously pulled out of the AFC. So I don't know. I think I was going to say Chennai, but I think Clifford's a more of a solid coach. At least he kind of drags out results, a point here and
He
there, a
won, no,
point here.
with
There.
Odisha.
Yeah.
If you had won Super
Yeah.
Cup with Odisha, right?
Yeah, but it's
So
end of season Super Cups where half the teams pull out, don't want to play it, and without
yeah,
the
they're playing on
obvious
snooze mode. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't judge people on some of these kind of tournaments just like this league. But I think getting back to Mumbai, there's a rumor that another veteran might be joining them. Johnny Kauko might be added to midfield. So,
Yeah.
and if you look at good player when he was in his peak, but again, you're looking at players now who you can't see them giving it for 90 minutes. And if you've had short 3 seasons, how many of these guys are going to break down? And Nuno Reis and Valpoya at centre backs because Mehtab was left. I just don't think the squad doesn't look strong enough to 1 or 2 injuries and it could all the deck of cards could come tumbling down. Yeah.
I think there's only one team that's going to be decidedly mid-table, not up there, not bottom there, and I'm going to give it to Brad, your old friend Coily, there, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like for the Indian conditions, a good coach because he always seems to extract a lot more out of his teams than they look on paper, right? If you look at the squad, it's not bad. They have some experience in terms of Albino, but I would personally prefer an Amrit Gopi to step up. You have Stephen Eze, you have Lazar Serkovic, Nikhil Barla, Sadik Goloi, Pranay Haldar, yes. Ray Tachikawa, not bad for this league at all. Nicolas Stojanovic, also not bad for the league at all. Saurav Das, Mark Zotanpuya, Mehdi Talal, if he can overcome his injury worries from last season, is great. Sanan Mohammed, my absolute favorite right now in the national team. The kid comes on and you can see that he's going to do something. So, yeah, I think Jamshedpur Shrikotan also. So, yeah, I mean, they have some substance. And like Prats is a very difficult trip to undertake, right? Yeah.
I think the way you've just described Rakai, I'd probably elevate them now from mid-table to probably one of the dark horse contenders. Because I think the way you name the squad, they're stronger than Ramglass. And the way Kohli get them play, you look from set pieces, they're going to be tough. The likes of
Stephen is going to be in both the boxes, right?
Yeah, both the boxes. He's going to be a threat in both. He's going to be a threat in both boxes, as they say. And set piece delivery, you've got good players, Stojanovic and Tachikawa in midfield. It's a tough team to sort of play against, and Kohli get them going. And he likes his wingers getting down the line. No better than Sanan at the moment, as you said. So maybe they're the top 3 then.
You have Sanan and you have a fit Talal. I think you can do wonders with those two. I think.
Yeah. I think these coaches were able to get a lot from Indians, right? And he's one of them.
Yeah.
Along with
they also
one of them.
they also got Gabriel Rosenberg, who did really well in the I mean, he was okay. He was one of the more decent players at Srinidhi, I felt. My friend Tanay worked there and he was always a big fan of Gabriel. He said this kid needs more time. Right? He's also actually, so we might see Gabriel peaking. Right? So I think that the problem is, for me, Jamshedpur, I'm looking at the center forwards position. I think it's between Messi Booli and Manveer Singh. So I think that's where I can't. It's a bit of a conundrum there.
I guess they can
find out in a week's time.
I'm really sort of looking forward. After this discussion, I'm sort of looking forward to the season a lot more. Because I think it's going to be very unpredictable and quite a bit of, results that are just random. So, let's hope it's an exciting league. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking time and being here. Thanks, everybody. Please like, subscribe, do that good stuff to keep us, on air. So, until next time, take care. Keep watching and following Indian football. Thank you.